guys, it's Omi. Today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favourite animes of all time that I've recently rewatched, called Durarara, or Dur for short, if you're wanting to. And it's a slice of life anime, I think. It's like slice of life, sort of crime, sort of supernatural. There are quite a few supernatural elements to it. Definitely one of my favourite animes of all time. I watched it the first time, I think it was a couple of years ago. And just recently, the volumes of manga have started coming out in the UK. I picked up the first 3, read them, and was like, wow, I really want to rewatch the anime. So I did. The story centres around a boy called Mikado who moves to Ikebukuro in Tokyo. That's where it's all set. To come to school with his internet friend Kida. Now, Mikado and Kida are like complete opposite personalities. Kida's really outgoing. He wants to go pick up all the girls. He's really quite cheesy at times. A bit of comic relief, I guess. Well, or so you think at the start. And Mikado's quite calm, quite collected, a bit more sensible, although not necessarily as streetwise. And they make friends with a girl called Anri, who is very quiet. Very quiet. And there are many reasons for that. You really find out some quite shocking things about her, actually, as the story progresses. But it centres around those 3 and their dealings with the Ikebukuro gangs. Now, there are 2 main gangs, were the Yellow Scarves and the Blue Squares. But before the anime set, there was this big gang war between them that you keep hearing about. And it wasn't really... It was suggested that the Yellow Scarves won, but not really, because basically the leader of the Yellow Scarves left. And so they just lost the will to fight, and the war just sort of stopped. Both groups got disbanded, and nobody really heard of them since. But the gang that's really up and coming at the moment is a group called the Dollars, who don't have a colour, so people can't recognise them. Because the Yellow Scarves, you could see them because they all wore yellow. Blue Squares, they all wore blue, so you could tell which one was which. But these Dollars don't have a colour, and at first they're sort of troublemakers, but then they start to clean things up. Like, I think one of the first examples is there's a graffiti on a wall and people clean it up. And there's things like that, and people leave notes and be like, the Dollars, and stuff like that. So people are sort of don't really know how to take the Dollars. So there's all that side of it. There's all the curiosity centred around that. And you sort of, as you go along, you're trying to guess which characters might be in the Dollars and which aren't, and there are rumours that all these others are all in the Dollars, and it's centred around the Dollars, mainly. And then later on, you get a character called the Slasher. Now that is a whole different side, and it basically, at the end, the three kids that you're following have way more behind them than they let on. And the Yellow Squares, the Dollars, and the Slasher all come into it. And I'm not going to spoil it, because you don't want to be spoiled, seriously. It's all about figuring it out. So, yes. Now, the characters, I've mentioned the 3 main characters, Mikado, Kida, and Anri. There's the Black Rider, or the Headless Rider, who is... Everybody at the first thinks is a man, but she kind of obviously has boobs and curves, so it's a girl, who nobody sees the face of, because she's headless. Well, she's headless. And there's a whole mythological background to that comes all the way from Ireland. She's what you call a Dullahan, which is basically a Grim Reaper, but they are a headless person who rides around carrying their head under their arm, and rides a headless horse. And they knock on the doors of people who are about to die. So and she ends up losing her head and hops on the ferry to Japan because she can sort of sense where it's gone. So she hops on the ferry to Japan, and is basically been spending the past 20 years trying to find her head. And that becomes pretty major. That's quite a big plot twist, so I'm not going to go into any more of that. Then there's the legends of Ikebukuro, which is Izaya and Shizuo. Now, Shizuo and Izaya hate each other. They really hate each other, constantly trying to kill each other. Izaya tries not to be in Ikebukuro too much, but sometimes he feels like crossing the border. Now, Izaya is a very dangerous and creepy and suspicious person, and he is the main information broker for the whole of that area of Tokyo, and possibly more. That he plays this weird game board chess thing that's like a mixture of what looks like drafts, I don't know, chess and pai shou, I think, or shogi. But you slowly learn that actually you get to figure out which pieces are who on the board game. Anyway, it's basically his job to find out information about people, and then he sells it to other people, or he just keeps it to annoy people, or just for his own amusement. And the reason behind this is that he loves humans. He loves how they change. He loves how interesting they are. He loves how unpredictable they can be, or how predictable they can be. And her first episode with him, he not disguises himself, but he says that he's part of this suicide group, and then tries to make this girl commit suicide, but at the same time talks her out of committing suicide. And you really get a taste for his personality then, how fickle he can be. Now, Shizuo is Ikebukuro's strongman. He is really strong, and most of the time you see him, he's throwing a vending machine or pulling a sign out of the ground and whacking someone with it, because that's what Shizuo does. And he has a bit of backstory, you know. He's always been a bit strange. He just ended up getting into fights or falling off something and breaking every single bone in his body. And he doesn't like violence, but he's incredibly violent. He doesn't like violence, but he just gets so mad sometimes that he can't help himself. But he becomes quite a good ally. Him and the Dullahan, the hairless rider, Celti is her name. They're quite good friends. And Celti lives with her love interest, Shinra, who's an underground doctor. He's basically an illegal doctor. Like, he knows all the stuff, but he does it for bad reasons. And that, in the first arc of the series, that really ties into it. There are a few side characters. There's Simon, who's he is a side character, but he ties into a lot. He's a black Russian sushi. He advertises for a Russian sushi restaurant that's really bad quality, really cheap. And he's sat there like, we don't have human meat anymore. It's okay. But he's also very strong, and he's usually the one that stops any fights. All lovable characters. I'm pretty sure I've missed out a couple of main characters because there's a lot of them that all end up tying in there somewhere. There's always some tie-in to something. It's really, really... And that's why I love the series so much. You're on your toes all the time. You're constantly thinking, right, where would they tie in? Right, okay, so that could be them. Oh, no, but that could be them. And it really keeps you thinking. It really keeps the suspense, and really the tension is awesome. There's also quite a fun element as well. It's not all serious and dying and fights. It's a lot of... You really get a feel for the connection between the people in the town. You really get a group feel. And with the dollars at the end of the first arc, you feel the triumph and feel the, wow, there's this many people and they're all connected in such a subtle way. Which are some more characters. There's a couple that I'm not going to say anything about them, actually, because you'll find out all that. That's quite fun. There's a group of people who I can't remember any of their names. Their names just completely slipped my mind. Who we find out a lot more about them later, but they basically... Togusa is the driver and Kadota is like the head of the group. There's only 4 of them. And they all just kind of drive around in this van. And the boy and the girl that I always forget their name, are quite creepy actually. There is one scene where they threaten to torture someone, and they are serious. Like, they're genuinely going to burn him with this matchstick thing. They're genuinely psychopaths, it seems. And they're obsessed with manga. Everything is how it would be in a manga, and oh, it should be this, and they do this and shout this, and they're really fun actually. Togusa drives them around places. He's like the getaway driver, and Kadota is the planner and the brains of the group. He's the mature one, the one that keeps them all under control. But they're all friends. Like, they know Shizuo, and they sort of know Izaya, and they have a bit to do with Celti, and Mikado knows them. Kida's good friends with them, and he introduces them to Mikado, and Mikado becomes really good friends with them later, and Mikado on his first day in Tokyo runs into all of these people because he's walking with Kida out of the station, and Kida's like, oh, you mustn't mess with Shizuo. If you see Izaya, you run like hell. Simon, a lovely guy, but he will beat you up. And these guys are my friends. And on his first day, Mikado meets all of them. He literally just turns around and his eyes, they're like, hi, who are you? And it's just, if someone asked me what's the one anime you would want your life to be like, I'd probably say Durarara. It's just, I really like the connection between the people and how it's such a community feel, but there's a hint of danger to it. It really makes for a thrilling series. The characters each have their own music theme. Sort of, you know someone's coming into it because their theme will start playing. The music really does draw you in. It can be either quite complacent or it can be really sort of get your heart going type music. The animation is brilliant. I honestly can't complain anything about the animation because it's done so well to express the characters. It is just awesome. Like I've said before, one of my favourite animes of all time. And once it comes out in the DVDs here, which I think it does in March? No, April, I think. I will definitely be buying it, and because I can rewatch it whenever I want. So yes, So that is my little review of Durarara. It's available on Crunchyroll, and that's where I've watched it. And you don't have to be a member because it's been on there for a while. So, yes, please comment if you've seen Durarara and you have anything to add. Then please comment. Subscribe. I'm going to be doing a few more reviews of things. I'm going to finish off Suritama next, because I stopped halfway through. I can't even remember why. I'm going to finish that off, probably do a little review on it. So yes, like if you liked, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.